Hi, I'm Ron James, and this is a very special edition of Bigger Questions here on our new spaceship set. And with me to honor and kind of break it in is the illustrious Linda Moulton Howe. Linda, it's really awesome to have you here.
Well, thank you, Ron, and you have done a beautiful job. I feel like I'm in the 2017 version, maybe of one of the Star Trek pods that went off in one of those Zooms. The most powerful discussion that I ever had was in December 1999, bar any of my long 38 years of trying to get to the bottom of all this. It was a man from the World Bank contacted me and said that he had a friend, a colleague, who was retiring from the Defense Intelligence Agency after 23 years. And he said, my friend would like very much to meet you, meaning me, and to talk with you about a section in your book that has to do with what the abductees call the resurrection technology. And it took a month. A meeting was set. I had to travel. They had to travel. We met in a place that the DIA guy, he was the one who said, this is where we meet. And in the process of that discussion, near the first 5 or 10 minutes, and I've never forgotten this, he referenced the sentence that I had given you that I had read at Kirtland. He knew all about my background. Mm-hmm. He had read my book. He said, that sentence that you have talked about on radio and television is absolutely true. But he said, you need to think about the Earth's relationship to all of these other intelligences. Earth has been perceived as a laboratory. And he said, we, the government, we have proof that at least 3 competing geopolitical, territorial, conflicting extraterrestrial civilizations have been terraforming and harvesting from this planet for at least 270 million years. I said, sir, that's before the time of the dinosaurs. And he looked at me for one beat, and then he said, Linda, one of these groups made the dinosaurs. They were an 85 million year long experiment for them. And he said, the part we're not sure of. We say that an asteroid came through the solar system, crashed down in the Gulf of Mexico, created the Chicxulub crater, caused blackness in the skies, and that is what put the end of the dinosaurs. And he said, but what we know about the Ebens, and they're defined as having the pear-shaped heads with a chin like this, completely different from those that come down like this. He said that those Ebens, we consider them to be allies. They lie. Allies that lie, and we know that they can do anything. And we even had a discussion about how they were able to manipulate time. If there was a problem, they could have put the asteroid that was incoming in another timeline, another dimension, that they had this technology. So
they let it happen, or maybe even caused it to happen, to kind of push the reset button on planet Earth.
It was the first time anybody ever introduced the idea to me that we could be dealing with an alien presence, or many, in which the planet itself is their laboratory, and that there was a conscious and deliberate decision to not do anything that they could have done with advanced technology to avert the 6-mile incoming asteroid piece, and that the dinosaurs would have kept going on as the dominant life form on Earth. With that extinction event, you can look at it, you can Google on a time frame where you see the different life forms developing on the Earth, and out go the dinosaurs, and then here is this spike that comes up, and it's mammals. And Homo sapiens sapien are mammals. Mm-hmm. But that question, could there have been different manipulators? Was Homo erectus, Lucy, standing up in North Africa, the same that was tweaked by the same non-humans leading up through Denisovans and all of the various types, getting to Neanderthal? We know from studying where grave sites are, they put flowers on graves because they find the seeds and the pollen in a rectangle. Why? Why did Neanderthal go extinct? Why did Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien overlap with Neanderthal about 40,000 years ago directly? And Neanderthal ceases to exist. And Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien takes over, flourishing on the planet. And that you could argue that Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien is a very violent creature. We may be the most intelligent manipulation so far, but we are violent. Was that on purpose? If Homo sapiens sapien, Cro-Magnon, was made by the same Ebens that experimented with the reptiles on Earth, and that we have the mythology of Adam and Eve, the Homo sapiens sapien, being in a garden, and what was the teacher? A reptile? A snake? A viper? What is this strange juxtaposition between something that is not primate, that is involved in our most ancient mythologies, and that we now today in 2017 are having people like the man who sat with me for 7 hours from the DIA, retired, and took me through what he knew about Nordics, reptilians, Ebens, a conflict, competition, geopolitical territorial competition. And at the end, what I came away from is that this is a complicated chess game in which our government, who has direct relationships with some of the alien presence and has been having direct efforts to communicate in Project Sigma since the 60s, and in a few places has, and they are convinced that we are the product, we would be a hybrid. We would be a hybrid mixture of extraterrestrial genes with something that was evolving in the Earth environment that could breathe oxygen atmosphere and live in this particular gravity and this atmospheric density. And yet, every one of these people that I've talked to, when it comes to what is the agenda, there's always this pause. We're not sure.
Let me take a stab at it. Over the course of history, there's been, as you say, a few different alien factions, all with a different agenda for the outcome of planet Earth. Now, when Homo sapiens reached a certain point of evolution, it's like a spark went off. We were recognized as a species that could spiritually transcend the nature of violence, dog eat dog, survival of the fittest. We showed a capacity for growth because that is how new members of galactic civilizations evolve. They get to a point where they're no longer experiments, they're no longer throwaway societies, they're no longer civilizations that come and go. They're civilizations that actually show a spark of capability of evolution that qualifies them to self-determine. Whatever group of beings, sentient beings, are running the galaxy in whatever loose alliance they have. There is a semi-loose alliance, it's a peaceful alliance, but there's still competition, there's still politics, there's still things going on between these different races. And again, they all have a different agenda for Earth. But at some point, we were recognized as a species with a certain amount of potential. And then it was hands off, let's see what they do. Now, kind of like the Star Trek Prime Directive. But that hasn't quite worked out because all of the different factions are doing what they can as surreptitiously as they can, sometimes overtly, sometimes not so overtly, to influence the outcome. So, you know, they're very human-like in their tactics. But that is what's going on right now. And so when the government says, well, yeah, we know, but we don't know, they really don't. And we're actually at a point, I believe, that our self-determination is going to be our outcome. And even though the outcome is being influenced by different races. Some are encouraging our violent nature through the media, through all the different societal controls that are in place, and some are communicating with us on a spiritual level, on an intuitive level, and some are using completely different tactics that we don't even understand. But the idea is that even though we're being influenced, we're still self-determining. And the outcome of that self-determining is really going to determine whether or not we are welcomed into a galactic family as a civilization, or rather we're allowed to implode, or rather we're allowed to literally, there's those I believe that want to harvest this entire planet based on whether it's an energetic harvest, whether it's a real physical harvest, whether it's a reset. So there's all these different outcomes, there's all these different parties with different hopes for how the outcome is created by us. And to a certain level, we're self-determining, and we're in those final hours. And that's what I think is going on with the whole thing. And I think one of the reasons that they're not going to allow the kind of disclosure that we want to see is because the truth is deep and shocking, and it's, you know, it's not so simple just to say, oh yeah, by the way, there's aliens. Because then you got to start explaining it. There's a lot of people still alive.
Animal mutilations, human abductions, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Well, but can I just put something in here that throws back to Hynek and his reference to theosophy? It is possible that physicist Tom Campbell, who has the book My Theory of TOE, My Big Theory of Everything, he is convinced that we are living in a computer simulation universe, and that it is from the consciousness of something else, and that he calls this an entropy reduction trainer for souls.
Yes.
I like it because it seems to resonate with something I have felt in my own life, that this part that reacts to kittens and babies and all things that are light and peace and love, if the truth is there is a divine field and it's not in the matter universe, a divine field has no entropy. It is something apart and separate. It is the matter worlds, and it may have created thousands, millions, trillions of universes, and we're in one. If the entire reason for a divine field to create matter worlds was that it wanted to take sparks of itself without me ever being able to try to even imagine how a divine field comes into existence in the first place. But once it's there, if it wants to put itself out in interaction with anything, the soul would be the particle from the divine field that in the long run of time to eternity, its goal is to watch and see how many of these souls will choose decisions that will bring the soul back through time to the divine field. That karma, ethics, morality, those are the big games, no matter how it's being played out from war to peace. And that right now, this intersection that you are talking about, I feel it strongly. This is an intersection. It can go two ways. If it does go through to the police state, which something is trying to get this planet under some kind of control that is military and police, you can feel it. And it's coming through, we say, ISIS attacks and terrorism. But how big is the box? If we go that route, where now we're talking about we couldn't even bring computers, iPhones, any of the digital technologies into the United States, what is going to happen as things get closed down more and the potential that there could be martial law if there was some big violent event in the United States? That is a path I think is the danger one. There is this other. This is the one that is heading out to the solar system. This is the one that wants to get to Alpha Centauri with the lasers pushing the small craft. This is the one where it may be dangerous and not everybody can go, but that Homo sapiens sapien might be able to set up their own ground independent of an alien influence and manipulation, whether it's now going to be on Mars or out to Alpha Proxima, that is the planet, the rocky planet orbiting, that somehow this is it. This is the time. It's going to go one of these two directions.